These are the greatest football moments of the 90s.
This was the start of a new era for football.
A decade of magnificent teams.
Football just suddenly became exciting.
Mesmerising players.
Eric Cantona was a god.
Dennis Bergkamp!
And madness.
He was the person who did the unpredictable.
Was balletic so elegant while thrashing this man.
Bish, bash, bosh!
The 1990s was the decade that saw football go supernova.
Wow, there is something happening.
That wasn't just good football, it had you glued to your seat.
Coming up, the ecstasy, agony and controversy that launched the world's favourite game into the 21st century.
The 90s, it was incredible.
Our journey through the greatest footballing moments of the 90s begins with the creation of the world's most popular league.
Here goes Beckham! Brilliant!
Back in '92, England's football reputation had been all but ruined by a decade of hooliganism. In a bid to improve the sport, the country's top teams took the monumental decision to disband the First Division, signing a multi-million-pound TV deal to form the all-new Premiership. The beautiful game had entered the big money age.
The 90s was a hugely important time for the development of football in this country. It was the injection of new ideas and certainly the injection of substantial new money that brought a whole new dimension to the game.
It became an attraction, it became like a real entertainment, a real show, and grew very quickly.
Suddenly there was football. You could have it morning, you could have it noon, you could have it night.
We're here for the next 5 hours with Super Sunday.
You could have all that you wanted, from every angle that you wanted.
The influx of television money meant that the transfer market was just blown wide open.
You could see Cantona coming, Ginola coming, Zola, Vialli at the same time, and other fantastic players.
I still remember when Dennis Bergkamp signed for Arsenal. You know, he was a guy who was a World Cup star, one of the best players in the world.
That was the era of the great glamour players like David Beckham being spawned by the game because they were able to command the income that their talents and their public appreciation deserved.
You didn't just see players on the back pages of newspapers. You suddenly walked into a newsagent and there they are on the front pages of celebrity magazines, and I think that's when it changed.
In 1996, one epic match would come to define English football's glamorous new dawn.
The match that everyone goes back to for the Premier League would be the 96 clash between Liverpool and Newcastle at Anfield.
I think all Anfield games were electric. We was flying, they was flying, but the atmosphere was just tremendous.
We didn't have any plan. Just go out, play, enjoy yourself, and make sure you don't have any regrets at the end.
The game had all the makings of a Premiership classic, pitting Liverpool's English stars against a Newcastle side studded with foreign talent.
They had a very cavalier approach to playing Newcastle, and he had some wonderful attacking players. But so did Liverpool.
A couple of minutes in, the legendary Robbie Fowler scores. It was end to end. It was like one, another. You just couldn't believe what you were seeing.
I just remember that Asprilla, I remember he nutmegged me for their first goal. And it was a topsy-turvy game. They went 2-1.
You know, just turning one round the corner into the net.
It was nice to score on the field.
We went 2-2. They went 3-2.
Newcastle lead again.
Everything was there. The thrill, suspense, right to the end.
After an electrifying second half, the thrilling game looked set to end 3-3, but the drama was far from over.
I'm sure it was almost the last kick of the match when Collymore cuts inside and whacks one inside the near post.
Liverpool have won it!
Goal for free! If you look at Stan Collymore when he scored the goal, you can see that he's actually realizing that he has scored a very, very important goal. Not just for him, for the club, and for the game. What a cracker.
The epic encounter was voted the Premiership's greatest game of the decade, helping the English League on its way to world domination with a global audience of 4.7 billion.
I think there's no doubt about it, the quality of the game improved and it became faster and it became slicker.
The goals, the players, it really did put the Premier League on a higher par.
He brought a lot of technique, a lot of tactic too, and made it the best football in the world.
Our next story takes us to USA 1994, where for one Italian legend, the nightmare of deciding a World Cup final with a penalty shootout was to become a reality. Italian player Roberto Baggio was voted World Footballer of the Year in 1993. But the Azzurri star will forever be remembered for his last disastrous kick of the US World Cup the following year.
Baggio was special in so many ways. He had the kind of technique that you don't really often see in players.
What a footballer. What an interesting look. He was the coolest man in the universe with the worst haircut in the universe.
I'll tell you how good a player he was. He kept Zola out of the national team most times, and Zola's one of the best players I've ever seen.
Italy faced a challenging tournament in the 1994 US World Cup.
It was a hard job to get to the finals. Even against Nigeria, where we were a goal down and 5 minutes from the end. We would have been out of the World Cup at the quarter-finals.
For Italy to get to that final was a slog, and they had been defensive, and they'd sort of, squeezed their way through round after round.
Roberto Baggio, he scored pretty much regularly right throughout World Cup '94. He was definitely one of the stars.
5 goals from Baggio helped propel Italy to the World Cup final, where they would face Brazil in the soaring heat of California's Rose Bowl Stadium.
It was about 45 degrees Celsius at the time, and Italy could deal with the heat. Nobody can do.
For athletes to perform well at midday, at 40 degrees and almost 100% humidity.
So the World Cup final of 1994 is underway.
After an intense 120 minutes under the scorching sun, the score remained 0-0.
For the first time ever, as the final whistle goes at the end of extra time, the World Cup final will be decided by a penalty shootout.
I remember the first Italian taker just absolutely skying it.
The guy who missed that was Franco Baresi, the captain, the legend.
And then Brazil missed one, but then they got the next few.
With penalties at 2-2, Daniele Massaro faced the goal.
Obviously, there's huge pressure on you when you leave the middle of the field for the penalty spot, and you feel the burden of responsibility. I remember going into the penalty spot and trying to work out the position of the ball. And when I looked up, the goalkeeper looked like a mythical giant, and the goalpost was tiny.
With the score now 3-2 to Brazil, it was down to Roberto Baggio to keep Italy's hopes alive.
Roberto Baggio, the saviour of Italy throughout this tournament. He's missed it, and Brazil win the World Cup.
When Baggio missed the penalty, I just cried for something like 6 minutes in a row without stopping.
Baggio's reputation was just blazed over the bar in that penalty shootout. And you just felt desperately sorry for him, because that wasn't what the player was all about, but that is what the player is going to be remembered for.
And even one of the great and technically accomplished players, one of the greats of all time, Roberto Baggio, missed one, and that says it all.
Baggio missed some penalties in his career, very, very few, but never in that way, never over the bar. He kept the special one for that final.
Missing the penalty shot and seeing my companion do so was not at all pleasant. For people who have worked for 40 days trying to achieve victory, thinking of all the people in Italy who were watching us and disappointing them.
Despite his greatness, Roberto Baggio will be remembered by many as the man who cost Italy the World Cup.
It's amazing.